It was just another quiet morning on Earth. The sky looked calm, the clouds were moving slowly, and people everywhere were busy living their usual lives. Planes flew high above the cities, children ran to school, and shopkeepers opened their doors for the day. Everything seemed peaceful, normal, and ordinary. No one had the slightest idea that in just a few minutes, everything they knew about the world was going to change forever. Far above the blue sky, where the atmosphere fades into space, something was moving. At first, it looked like a group of faint stars slowly drifting closer. A few astronomers in observatories noticed strange patterns appearing on their radar screens. They thought it might be a cluster of asteroids or maybe a satellite malfunction. But as the minutes passed, the signals multiplied, dozens, then hundreds, moving in perfect formation. That was the first sign that something was wrong. By the time the world realized what was happening, it was already too late to ignore. Every country's monitoring station, from the United States to Japan, started picking up the same readings. Unknown objects were entering the solar system at incredible speed. They weren't meteors. They were slowing down, something no rock from space could ever do. The world's most powerful telescopes turned toward the sky. What they saw left everyone speechless. Enormous metallic shapes were entering Earth's orbit. They were dark and silent, like floating mountains made of steel. They had no national flags, no signals, no messages, only a deep humming sound that shook the atmosphere. Within hours, hundreds of ships were seen surrounding the planet. It was clear now. Earth was being watched, maybe even targeted. At first, people were confused and terrified. Governments held emergency meetings. The media went wild with theories. Some said it was the end of the world, others believed it was a historic first contact. The internet was flooded with videos and photos. But the truth was far more serious than anyone imagined. The beings inside those ships were not friendly explorers. They were known across the galaxy as the Threx Dominion, a civilization so advanced and powerful that they had conquered dozens of planets. To them, war was routine and victory was always certain. They believed in domination through fear. In their long history, no species had ever stopped them. When their fleet approached Earth, they didn't expect resistance. They thought this would be another quick and easy conquest, an unremarkable planet full of primitive life. From high orbit, the Threx observed the cities below, bright dots of light scattered over land and sea. They scanned human communication systems, listening to news broadcasts and radio signals. To them, humanity seemed chaotic, divided, and weak. Nations argued, people fought, and technology compared to theirs seemed ancient. They concluded that Earth would fall within hours of invasion. But they were wrong. For years, Earth's scientists had been tracking strange signals coming from deep space. The governments never told the public, but secret programs were already studying patterns that didn't match natural phenomena. Quietly, they prepared. In underground labs and secret military facilities, human scientists and engineers had developed technology to protect the planet, if such a day ever came. They didn't know who might arrive, but they wanted to be ready. When the alien fleet appeared, these hidden systems came alive. Satellites linked together to form a massive defense network. Advanced radar grids, invisible to the public eye, started scanning the sky. Scientists and military leaders from every major country connected under one command center. It was known as the Aegis Protocol, a secret alliance formed years ago for the purpose of planetary defense. Within the first few hours of contact, the Threx ships started moving closer. Their enormous shadows passed over the oceans, darkening the water beneath them. The sound they made was low and deep, like thunder that never stopped. Then, without warning, they fired. The first wave of energy strikes hit over the Pacific. The sky turned bright white, and massive waves rose from the impact. Communications went down across multiple regions. People screamed and ran through the streets, looking up at the strange lights in the clouds. The world had never seen anything like it. But humanity didn't stay helpless for long. From underground control rooms, the Aegis Protocol went active. In space, human defense satellites changed orbit and aimed powerful energy beams at the invading ships. On the ground, high-frequency rail cannons and laser systems locked onto their targets. In a single coordinated command, Earth struck back. Beams of light shot upward from the surface, hitting several alien ships before they could react. The explosions lit up the night sky like new stars being born. For the first time in their history, the Threx were caught off guard. They expected a frightened world, but instead, they found one that was fighting back. In one intense hour, 34 alien ships were destroyed. Their commanders couldn't believe it. How could a world they considered primitive damage their fleet? Their shields were supposed to be unbreakable. Yet now, burning fragments of their vessels were falling into the oceans. They underestimated the will of the human race, the instinct to survive at any cost. Down on Earth, people watched in shock and disbelief. Videos of glowing debris falling from the sky spread everywhere. Fear slowly turned into something else, hope. For the first time, humanity saw itself as one. There were no countries, no divisions, only one planet standing against an enemy from the stars. Scientists worked around the clock, decoding alien signals and collecting fragments from crashed ships. Every piece of alien technology they found was studied and tested, no matter how small. In the middle of all the chaos, a small group of scientists made a groundbreaking discovery. Among the debris, they found traces of energy unlike anything known to physics. It was a form of plasma that could bend electromagnetic fields in ways humans had never seen. Within days, they managed to build a prototype weapon using this new material. It was a hybrid of human and alien technology, something entirely new. They called it the Earth Pulse Project. It wasn't large, but it was powerful enough to destroy even the strongest alien shields. The next time the Threx tried to attack, the humans were ready. The alien commanders regrouped above Earth, furious that their first attempt had failed. They ordered a second wave, stronger and more direct. But as they approached, strange signals began to jam their targeting systems. Earth's defense network had learned how to disrupt their communications. Human pilots flew out in modified jets equipped with alien energy cores, facing ships thousands of times bigger than their own. But it didn't matter. Human determination was stronger than any technology. Everywhere, acts of bravery unfolded. A pilot guiding his damaged jet into an enemy ship to save millions below. Engineers in underground bunkers risking their lives to keep power grids running. Medical workers helping the wounded even as the sky above glowed red. The whole planet moved together, not for reward or glory, but for survival. Up in orbit, the battle continued. Alien ships tried to push closer to the surface, but Earth's defenses were relentless. The Threx were used to fast victories, but here they were facing something they couldn't understand: human unpredictability. They could calculate energy outputs, shield strengths, and firing speeds, but they couldn't predict courage. As the hours passed, the aliens began to retreat slightly, trying to reorganize their fleets. But Earth didn't let them breathe. Coordinated human attacks hit their central command ship, causing a chain reaction of explosions that could be seen from the ground. A brilliant light spread across the sky, followed by silence. For the first time, the people of Earth saw the enemy retreat. Cheers broke out in cities around the world. Children looked up at the stars, no longer with fear but with awe. Humanity had survived the impossible. But deep in space, the Threx dominion wasn't finished yet. They were wounded, humiliated, and angry. They were already planning their return, stronger and larger than before. They would come back to prove that no one could defy them. Earth had won the first round, but the war was far from over. Yet even as governments prepared for what might come next, something had changed forever. The people of Earth were no longer divided by borders or flags. They had seen what unity could achieve. They had faced the unknown and survived. And somewhere, out beyond the stars, the Threx were beginning to realize a truth that would spread fear across their empire. Earth was not a weak world. It was something else entirely, a planet of survivors. The night after the first attack, Earth was silent. The cities that had survived stood in half-light, powered by backup grids and flickering street lamps. People stayed awake, afraid to sleep. No one knew if the aliens would come back or if the sky would stay quiet. Even the wind sounded strange that night, as if the whole world was holding its breath. Governments sent out emergency messages telling people to stay calm and remain indoors. But calmness was impossible. Every pair of eyes kept turning upward, searching the sky for another flash of light. Everyone had seen what happened the day before. They had seen the impossible, Earth fighting back and surviving. It gave people hope, but also fear. If humanity could hurt the invaders, then those invaders would surely come back angrier than before. In underground command centers, world leaders gathered again. The atmosphere was tense. Screens showed live data, satellite feeds, radar maps, and alien signal intercepts. No one spoke much. They all knew what was coming. The first battle was just a test. The real war hadn't even started. The Aegis Protocol, the system that united Earth's defenses, was now the planet's heartbeat. Scientists and military officers worked side by side, running endless calculations. Every country had sent its best minds and best resources. The world had never been this united before. It wasn't about borders anymore. It was about survival. In a high-security lab deep under frozen mountains, a small group of researchers studied the alien wreckage collected after the first battle. They worked day and night, examining pieces of shattered ships, broken panels, and strange glowing cores. None of it looked like anything humans had ever built. The materials were smooth, light, and almost alive, constantly vibrating with faint energy. The scientists didn't fully understand it, but they knew it could change everything. One evening, one of the engineers noticed a strange pulse inside a broken fragment. It was beating like a slow heart. They realized it was part of the ship's energy control system. After hours of testing, they found a way to connect it to human power sources. The fragment responded. It glowed brighter, stabilizing its energy pattern. For the first time, humans were able to power alien technology. It was a breakthrough moment. That discovery became the foundation of something new, something that could fight the enemy on equal terms. While the scientists worked, soldiers and pilots trained with new prototypes. They learned how to use hybrid weapons that combined human design with alien materials. The first working model of an energy cannon was created and tested in the Arctic base. It was small, only large enough to mount on a modified jet, but it could fire bursts strong enough to pierce alien shields. They named it Pulse 1, the first true symbol of human adaptation. Days turned into weeks. The alien ships remained silent in orbit, as if they were studying Earth again. People began to wonder if maybe the danger had passed. Some even dared to hope that the aliens had left for good. But the scientists knew better. Their sensors showed movement, something massive forming beyond the moon. The enemy was not gone. They were gathering, and then it began again. It was early morning when the alarm started. Space agencies all over the world reported heavy activity beyond lunar orbit. Hundreds of new signals appeared on radar. The Threx Dominion had returned. But this time the fleet was 5 times larger than before. The sky cameras caught their shadows long before they entered the atmosphere. Hundreds of dark shapes moving in silence, perfectly organized, perfectly deadly. Earth's defenses were activated instantly. Every command post, every pilot, every ship was ready. The world had learned from the first invasion. Underground bunkers were opened for civilians, while the military prepared for the largest battle in history. Scientists transmitted coordinates and energy frequencies across the Aegis network, syncing all human weapons into a single coordinated grid. The alien fleet broke through the clouds, forming a terrifying pattern across the sky. It looked like a moving storm, massive and endless. They didn't waste time. Beams of bright light began to descend from their ships, shaking the ground and cutting through the clouds. The sky turned red and gold as energy flashes collided with Earth's defenses. But this time, Earth was ready. The new pulse cannons powered up, sending streaks of blue light into the sky. Human pilots in advanced jets retrofitted with alien thrusters flew higher than ever before. They moved faster, struck harder, and dodged the alien beams with precision. The Aegis Protocol connected every defense unit in real time. If one city was attacked, the others responded instantly. Humanity had become one giant machine of survival. In space, near the edge of Earth's orbit, the most intense part of the battle began. The alien command ships hovered near the moon, sending waves of smaller drones toward Earth. Human defense satellites formed a barrier, intercepting and destroying as many as they could. The Earth looked like it was wrapped in a ring of light, a shield of courage and fire. In one part of space, a human squadron managed to break through the alien formation. Using the hybrid tech they had developed, they reached one of the Threx's control ships. For the first time, humans brought the fight to them. Inside the command centers, scientists and generals watched in disbelief as their fighters struck directly at alien vessels. A few of the ships exploded, their fragments drifting silently into the void. Humanity was fighting not as prey but as equals. The Threx commanders couldn't believe it. The species they had called weak was now destroying their ships. Their sensors couldn't even predict human movements anymore. Humans didn't follow patterns, they adapted instantly, changing tactics faster than any machine could calculate. It confused the Threx completely. As the hours passed, the battle spread from space to the upper atmosphere. Fireballs streaked across the sky like falling stars. Cities trembled from the shockwaves. Yet even in the chaos, the human spirit didn't break. Medical teams ran into danger to rescue others. Engineers kept power stations alive. People in shelters shared food and hope. Across every continent, humanity was holding its ground. Then came the moment that changed everything. The scientists in the Arctic base discovered something shocking in the alien signals. They had found the source of the Threx's energy network. It was a massive generator hidden inside one of their command ships, controlling the power of the entire fleet. If it could be destroyed, the invaders would lose their shield and communication system. The problem was that the generator was heavily guarded and located deep in space. Reaching it would mean a near-suicidal mission. Still, there was no other choice. The Aegis Council approved Operation Stormveil, a final attempt to end the invasion once and for all. A group of specially trained pilots volunteered for the mission. Their crafts were equipped with the newest hybrid weapons. They didn't expect to come back, but they didn't hesitate. Humanity had reached a point where fear no longer ruled. It was replaced by determination. Everyone on Earth watched as their ships lifted off, heading toward the dark side of the moon where the alien core was hidden. Hours passed, and communication with the mission went silent. No one knew what was happening up there. Then suddenly, one of the satellites picked up a massive energy spike. A bright flash appeared near the moon's orbit, followed by multiple smaller explosions. Moments later, all alien signals vanished. Their power source had been destroyed. Across Earth, the sky slowly cleared. The red glow faded, replaced by the soft light of dawn. The alien ships that were still hovering above the atmosphere began to fall out of control, crashing harmlessly into the ocean or burning up in the air. Silence returned. Not the fearful silence from before, but a peaceful one. The sound of victory. When the mission data came back, it confirmed what everyone had hoped. The human pilots had succeeded. They had destroyed the alien core, but none of them survived the explosion. Their sacrifice saved the planet. The world mourned their loss, but their bravery became the story that every child would grow up hearing. They were the reason humanity still had a future. In the days that followed, people emerged from shelters. Cities began to rebuild. The survivors looked up at the stars differently now, not with fear but with respect. They knew they weren't alone in the universe, but they also knew that they could protect themselves. Humanity had changed forever. But far away in the cold darkness between stars, a few damaged alien ships drifted silently. Only 17 of them made it back toward their homeworld. Inside, no one spoke. Their leaders had no words. They had learned a lesson that would echo across galaxies. Earth was not a planet to be conquered easily. The war was not over, but the balance of power had shifted. Humanity had earned its place in the universe, and somewhere deep within those who fought, one thought remained clear. If they ever come again, we'll be ready. The days after the great battle were quiet, but the silence felt strange. It wasn't the calm of peace, it was the stillness before another storm. People tried to return to their lives, but nothing felt the same anymore. The sky looked different now. The stars that once felt peaceful now seemed to watch back, as if hiding more secrets. Everyone knew that somewhere out there the Threx were still alive. And they would come again. On the surface, Earth looked busy rebuilding. Cities lit up again. Roads reopened, and children began to play in the streets, trying to forget the fear that once filled their nights. But under this calm surface, the world's leaders and scientists were working harder than ever. The Aegis protocol remained active, operating day and night. Every radar, every satellite, every sensor was scanning space for any sign of returning ships. In secret, the scientists had started another project. The alien technology they had collected was beyond imagination. It could bend energy, heal materials, and travel faster than light. The scientists were amazed by it, but also careful. They knew that such power could be dangerous if misused. Still, they also knew they had to be ready for whatever was coming next. At an underground base built deep in a mountain range, a group of experts worked on what they called the Phoenix Program. It was named after the mythical bird that rises from its ashes. The idea was simple: to use the alien energy cores from fallen Threx ships and merge them with human-built vessels. The goal wasn't just defense this time. It was to reach space and meet the enemy before they reached Earth. The project was risky. The alien energy was unstable and unpredictable. One small mistake could cause massive destruction. But there was no choice. Earth couldn't wait for another attack. They had to take control of their own destiny. Weeks passed. Slowly, one by one, the Phoenix ships took shape. They were smaller than the alien ships, but faster, sharper, and built with human creativity. Each had a core powered by captured Threx energy, modified to respond to human systems. The ships could fly from Earth to the Moon in minutes. They were something entirely new, machines of hope, not destruction. While the scientists worked, ordinary people around the world tried to rebuild what they had lost. Farmers began planting again, schools reopened, and radio stations filled the air with songs about courage and unity. Humanity had survived something unimaginable, and they refused to live in fear. People painted murals of stars and spaceships, reminding everyone that even the darkest night ends with dawn. But far away, beyond the range of any telescope, the Threx Dominion was not resting. In their dark world, filled with massive towers and silent skies, their leaders gathered to discuss their defeat. They couldn't understand how Earth had managed to fight them off. No other planet had ever done it. To the Threx, humans were supposed to be weak, emotional, divided, fragile. Yet somehow that very emotion had made them unstoppable. The Threx High Council made a decision. They would return to Earth one last time, but not to conquer. They wanted revenge. Their new plan was to destroy Earth's spirit completely, to make sure no one ever dared to resist them again. They began building their largest fleet yet, a massive armada with ships bigger than mountains. Their goal was simple: to end Earth's light forever. On Earth, the Aegis Command detected strange energy waves coming from deep space. The readings were stronger than anything before. The scientists knew immediately it was them. The Threx were coming again, and this time they wouldn't just attack. They would try to erase humanity completely. The news spread quickly, but instead of panic, there was determination. People had seen what they were capable of. They had seen humanity rise together before, and they would do it again. Across the planet, everyone, from soldiers to scientists to farmers, did their part. Some prepared defense systems, some gathered food and supplies, and others simply helped keep hope alive. The Phoenix program was rushed to completion. The first group of human pilots trained in zero-gravity simulators, learning how to control ships powered by alien cores. It was dangerous work. Many times the ships malfunctioned, causing intense bursts of light or loss of power. But the pilots kept trying. They knew they weren't just flying machines, they were flying the future of the human race. Then, one cold morning, the signal came. The sky monitors picked up hundreds of energy points moving toward the solar system. The Threx fleet had entered near Jupiter. They were on their way. The countdown began. The world went into full alert. Aegis centers all across the continents activated their systems. Defense grids surrounded major cities. Families gathered in shelters again, whispering prayers for safety. The world's television screens showed the same message everywhere. We are one. We stand together. In orbit, the first Phoenix ships launched. Their engines glowed blue and white, leaving bright trails across the black sky. People on Earth watched in silence, their hearts pounding as the ships disappeared into the stars. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just defending. It was taking the fight beyond Earth. As the Phoenix squadron moved closer to the edge of space, they saw the alien fleet ahead. The Threx ships looked like a wall of darkness, stretching across the void. There were hundreds of them, each glowing with eerie red light. The pilots knew the odds, but they didn't turn back. They had one mission: to protect the planet no matter what. Inside the Aegis Command Center, scientists watched every movement. Data streamed across screens. The human ships were outnumbered, but their new technology gave them speed. The battle began with flashes of light, streaking through the darkness. It wasn't chaos this time, it was strategy. Humanity had learned. They moved fast, hit hard, and never stayed still. The alien fleet opened fire, filling space with blinding energy waves, but the Phoenix ships dodged and struck back, targeting weak points with precision. It was like watching lightning dance in space. Every hit shook the alien formation a little more. On Earth, the people waited. They could see the flashes through telescopes and live satellite feeds. Every time a human ship survived an attack, cheers echoed through shelters and cities. It didn't matter who you were or where you lived. Everyone felt connected by one single hope, but the aliens were far from defeated. Their main ship, larger than any ever seen, began charging its core. It was preparing to unleash a massive wave that could destroy everything within its path, including Earth. The scientists monitoring from the command center realized what was happening. They knew that if that energy wave was released, the planet would not survive. There was only one way to stop it. The Phoenix fleet would have to destroy the alien core before it fired. The pilots received the message, and without hesitation, they formed a new plan. They divided into small teams and flew straight toward the main ship. It was almost impossible to get close. The energy fields were unstable and the alien firepower was overwhelming. But the humans kept pushing forward. Down on Earth, silence filled every room as people watched the live data. Then, suddenly, a massive flash appeared on the monitors, a burst of light brighter than the sun. For a moment, everyone thought it was over. The communication screens went dark. The connection was lost. Then slowly a single signal came through. One of the Phoenix ships had reached the alien core. The pilot triggered the last pulse weapon, overloading the enemy's power source. The explosion that followed sent a wave of light across space. The alien fleet scattered. Some ships lost control and drifted away. Others simply vanished from radar. The rest turned back, fleeing into the dark. Back on Earth, cheers and tears filled the shelters. The planet had survived again, but the victory came at a price. Many of the Phoenix pilots never returned. Their ships were lost in the explosion. Still, they had done what no one believed possible. They had stopped an empire. As days passed, the alien signals grew faint and then disappeared completely. The Threx fleet was gone. Only 17 of their ships were detected moving away from the solar system, damaged and silent. No one ever heard from them again. Humanity mourned its losses but celebrated its courage. Statues were built in honor of those who fought. The world came together not just as survivors but as something greater. A family. Scientists promised to keep exploring space not to conquer, but to understand. Humanity had learned that even in the face of the unknown, hope could be the strongest weapon of all. And so, when people looked up at the stars again, they no longer saw danger. They saw a reminder that no matter how dark the universe seemed, the light of human spirit would always shine through. The battle for Earth was over. But a new era had just begun. The smoke over the battlefield had finally begun to clear, and what was left behind didn't look like Earth anymore. Cities once filled with life now stood as silent monuments of survival and struggle. But amid the ruins, something powerful had taken root: hope. It wasn't born from weapons or machines, but from the courage of people who refused to kneel before an enemy that thought humanity was weak. The first invasion wave was gone, wiped out by Earth's surprising unity. But everyone knew it wasn't over. The alien fleet had only sent their front line. Their main armada was still out there, somewhere beyond the black sky. The leaders of Earth understood that the next attack would not just be about control. It would be about revenge. Deep beneath what used to be the capital, a massive underground base had been built, Haven 1. It became the new command center for all human resistance. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers from every corner of the world worked side by side. The difference now was that humanity wasn't fighting alone. They had technology taken from the first alien fleet. In one corner of Haven 1, a group of scientists were trying to unlock the secrets of alien power cores. These glowing blue devices were small enough to fit in a human hand, yet powerful enough to destroy entire structures. For weeks, the scientists tried to understand how they worked. It wasn't until a young technician noticed something strange. The cores were connected to each other, almost like living cells in a body. They seemed to communicate using light pulses. That discovery changed everything. It meant the aliens were using living technology, machines that were not built but grown. When the scientists realized this, a new idea was born. If alien machines could grow, maybe humans could learn to control them. Meanwhile, in the upper levels of the base, military commanders were training a new kind of defense unit, the Vanguard. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were pilots, engineers, and strategists trained to handle alien tech. Their goal wasn't just to defend, it was to take the fight back into space. While humanity prepared, strange signals began to appear in the atmosphere. At first they looked like static interference, but soon they formed a pattern, a message. It wasn't human and it wasn't friendly. The aliens were coming back and they weren't hiding it. That night, the leaders of every major region gathered in a dimly lit war room. Maps covered the walls, holograms flickered, and tension filled the air. They all knew what was coming. "If they land again," one commander said quietly, "there won't be much left to protect." But one scientist spoke up. "Then we don't wait for them to land. We meet them before they reach Earth." Silence filled the room. For the first time, someone had suggested taking the battle off the planet. Humanity had always been on the defensive, but now, maybe, it was time to strike back. The plan was risky, maybe even impossible, but there was no other choice. Using the captured alien ship that had crash-landed during the first invasion, engineers began rebuilding it piece by piece. They replaced damaged circuits with human-made materials and studied how the engines bent gravity itself. Every spark, every hum of energy inside that ship represented a step toward survival. As weeks passed, Haven 1 became a symbol of unity. People who once spoke different languages now worked with a single goal: protect their home. Farmers turned into engineers, miners became mechanics, and students learned to operate machines that no one had even dreamed of a year before. Humanity was changing, evolving under pressure. Far above the Earth, telescopes picked up the first signs of the second alien fleet. This time it wasn't thousands of ships, and it was millions. But something strange was noticed. Their formation looked scattered, almost broken. It seemed as if they had faced something unexpected before even reaching Earth. The scientists were puzzled. "Could someone else have fought them?" one asked quietly. Nobody knew. Still, the fleet kept coming. The world went silent as the first wave entered Earth's orbit. The sky darkened again, not from smoke, but from shadows, enormous ships blocking sunlight. Inside Haven 1, alarms blared. "Incoming vessels detected," shouted a technician. The Vanguard prepared to launch. The rebuilt alien ship, now named Eclipse, stood ready. Its new human pilot climbed aboard, his heart heavy but determined. The fate of the planet rested on what he and his crew could do next. As Eclipse rose from the underground hangar, the world watched through scattered communication networks. The ship pierced through the clouds, trailing light like a comet. For the first time, humanity wasn't waiting to be attacked. They were going to fight in the stars. When Eclipse reached the upper atmosphere, they saw the full size of the enemy fleet. It was endless, stretching across the horizon. But the aliens didn't expect humans to come this far. Their scanners reacted too slowly. Their formation wavered for a moment. And that was all Eclipse needed. Using the alien power core they had re-engineered, Eclipse unleashed a blinding pulse of energy that cut through the void like lightning. The pulse wasn't a weapon. It was a signal jammer. The alien ships began to lose communication with each other. Their network, their living machines, were confused. The first battle in space began that day. The humans were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but they had something the aliens didn't. They could adapt. The Eclipse weaved between massive ships, striking where it hurt the most. Every explosion painted the black sky with light. Back on Earth, people stood outside their shelters watching streaks of light dance across the night sky. They didn't know who was winning, but they hoped. For the first time, they weren't powerless. Hours later, when Eclipse's fuel began to run low, the pilot made a desperate move. He directed the ship toward the largest alien vessel, their command ship. If they could destroy that, the fleet might fall apart. The alien ship was huge, miles wide, glowing with strange blue veins of energy. As Eclipse approached, it was surrounded by hundreds of drones. The pilot dodged, twisted, and fired until the controls nearly melted. Finally, he reached close enough to the command core. With a deep breath, he armed the power core, the same alien device that once brought destruction, and set it to overload. The explosion that followed lit up the orbit like a second sun. From Earth, people saw it, a flash brighter than dawn. For a moment, silence followed. Then, one by one, alien ships began to lose power and drift away. The signal that controlled them was gone. Back in Haven 1, cheers erupted. But the joy was short-lived. The explosion had sent Eclipse spinning out of control. Its signal vanished. The brave crew who had saved humanity disappeared into the darkness of space. Yet their sacrifice had meaning. The second invasion had been stopped. The aliens' remaining ships? The explosions had stopped echoing, but the silence that followed was heavier than the sound of war. Smoke covered the Earth's sky, and the once bright blue horizon now looked dark and broken. People stood among the ruins of cities, tired but alive, breathing in the air of victory that came at a great cost. The alien invaders were gone, most of them destroyed, some vanished into the darkness of space. But even after the war ended, Earth was not the same. The victory had changed everything: humans, their technology, their hearts, and even their view of the universe. The global defense team worked day and night to gather what was left of the enemy's machines. The wrecked alien ships were being studied in underground labs where scientists tried to understand the strange materials and advanced systems they found. The walls of those labs echoed with a mix of excitement and fear. People were amazed at the alien technology, yet they couldn't stop thinking about one question. If this was only a small attack force, what would happen if more came? The Earth's governments joined together to form a single protective alliance. There were no more separate armies or countries arguing over power. For the first time in human history, everyone worked for the same goal: survival. Satellites were rebuilt and turned into defense platforms. New space stations were designed with weapons to detect and destroy anything that entered the solar system uninvited. The world's brightest minds shared their ideas freely, knowing that secrets now meant danger, not advantage. But not everyone felt safe. Some people feared that by using alien technology, humans were opening a door that should stay closed. Rumors spread online that parts of the alien fleet had survived, hiding beyond Mars, waiting for their chance to return. Others claimed that a few of the invaders had managed to land unnoticed in remote areas of the Earth. The truth was unclear, but fear made people restless. In one of the hidden research centers, a group of scientists worked on decoding the messages that had been stored inside the alien computers. After weeks of silent work, they finally cracked one part of the data. What they found was not just a message, it was a warning. It revealed that the alien force that attacked Earth had not been an army, but a scouting unit, sent only to test the planet's strength. They had recorded everything: the battles, human reactions, and the unexpected power Earth showed when united. And before their destruction, they had sent a final transmission back to their home world. This discovery shook the leaders. They realized the war was not over, it had only just begun. Somewhere across the galaxy, a much greater fleet might be preparing, studying the data, and planning a second invasion. The peace on Earth became tense and temporary. Every eye turned toward the sky again, watching, waiting for any sign of movement among the stars. Amid this uncertainty, a few brave individuals decided to take a different step. They wanted to reach out before another war could begin. Using the technology taken from the alien ships, they began constructing a vessel capable of interstellar travel. It was humanity's first attempt to go beyond its solar system. The idea was not to fight, but to understand, to find where those invaders came from, and to see if communication was possible before more destruction followed. As the ship neared completion, hope returned to many hearts. People volunteered from every part of the world: engineers, scientists, doctors, and pilots, each one ready to risk their life for the future of the planet. The day the ship was launched became a global event. Millions watched the countdown, holding their breath as the engines roared and the bright light carried the craft beyond the clouds. Humanity had taken its first step into the unknown, but the journey was not easy. The ship's crew soon realized that space was not empty. Strange signals began to appear on their scanners, patterns that didn't match anything they had seen before. At first they thought it might be interference, but the signals kept repeating, changing as if responding to them. When they finally managed to decode a small part of the transmission, the message chilled their hearts. It wasn't a greeting. It was a warning, written in the same code as the enemy data found on Earth. The crew knew then that they were being watched. Something out there already knew who they were and where they came from. The same force that once underestimated Earth now seemed to be preparing for something far greater. But instead of fear, the humans on that ship felt determination. They were no longer the weak planet that others thought would fall easily. They had fought, survived, and learned. Back on Earth, people followed every update from the mission, praying for their safety. The sense of unity that had grown from tragedy now turned into a promise that humanity would never again be caught unprepared. The world had changed from inside and out. The scars of war remained, but they were also symbols of strength. Children in schools learned about the battle not as a tale of destruction, but as a reminder of how powerful people can become when they stand together. As months passed, contact with the exploration ship became rare. The last message received was short, almost broken by distance, but clear enough to be understood. It said, "We've found something. They are not what we thought." After that silence, no one knew what happened to them, but their mission became a legend, a symbol of courage, curiosity, and hope. In the end, Earth stood quiet again. The people rebuilt what had been lost and prepared for whatever might come. They knew they were no longer alone in the universe, but they also knew one truth, that those who thought Earth would fall easily had learned a lesson they would never forget. Only 17 of their ships had returned, and their crews were gone forever. Humanity had proved its worth, and this time, the stars themselves would remember the cost of underestimating the planet that refused to surrender. Even in silence, even under the dark sky, Earth was no longer afraid. It had become something stronger, something ready to face whatever waited beyond the edge of the universe. The days after the alien fleet's defeat were quiet, but the quiet was not empty. It was filled with a mixture of relief, grief, and cautious hope. Cities began to rebuild, schools reopened, and people returned to work. But the memories of the invasion lingered in every heart. Streets were repaired, buildings reconstructed, and forests replanted. Yet the scars of what had happened remained, reminders of the fragility of life and the strength required to protect it. Humanity had survived, but everyone knew they had been given only a temporary peace. Even as the world slowly returned to a sense of normality, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly. The wreckage of alien ships had been collected and transported to high-security laboratories across the globe. Every piece of metal, every glowing fragment, every pulse of energy was carefully examined. The knowledge within those fragments was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was advanced, elegant, and powerful, but more importantly, it was a gift and a warning. Humans could use it, but only wisely. One small miscalculation could destroy everything that had been rebuilt. Meanwhile, leaders from every nation formed a permanent alliance, uniting Earth under a shared purpose, to ensure the planet could never again be caught unprepared. This alliance didn't erase borders, but it built bridges. Military commanders, scientists, and policymakers shared information freely, creating a network that spanned continents. It was the largest collaboration in human history, one born not from greed or ambition, but from necessity and survival. The alliance worked not only on defenses, but also on exploration. Humanity now understood that being prepared meant looking beyond the Earth itself. They developed ships capable of leaving the solar system, powered partly by reverse-engineered alien technology. These vessels weren't just for war, they were for understanding. Humanity had seen the vastness of the universe and realized that knowledge could be the best defense of all. Learning about potential threats before they arrived became as important as having weapons to stop them. Yet even in this time of preparation, the emotional wounds were deep. Families had lost loved ones. Entire cities had been devastated, and many children had grown up knowing only fear and chaos. Psychologists, educators, and community leaders worked to help people heal, reminding them that survival was not just about protecting bodies, but also about nurturing minds. Stories of bravery from the invasion were shared everywhere. Pilots who had flown impossible missions, engineers who had worked around the clock, and ordinary citizens who had helped strangers survive. These stories became the new legends, teaching future generations that courage and unity were humanity's greatest strengths. Across the globe, schools introduced new lessons. Children learned not only mathematics, science, and history, but also the story of the invasion, the strategy, the courage, and the determination that had saved Earth. They learned that even in the face of fear, people could rise together to create something stronger than any weapon. The narrative of the lost pilots, the scientists who had discovered alien technology, and the citizens who had helped one another became central to education. These stories emphasized that heroes could be anyone, anywhere, and that bravery came in many forms. Meanwhile, the world's scientists had discovered something remarkable. The alien technology, once analyzed and understood, allowed humans to make advancements far beyond what had been possible before. New forms of energy were developed, powering cities without pollution. Communication systems improved, connecting people instantly across the globe. Space exploration advanced rapidly. Humans began to understand faster-than-light travel concepts, energy manipulation, and artificial intelligence far beyond anything Earth had seen before. The aliens had underestimated humanity, but in doing so they had given humanity a chance to grow stronger, smarter, and more united. The Threx Dominion far across the galaxy had not forgotten. Only 17 of their ships had returned and the crews were lost. The rest of the fleet had been destroyed, their plans interrupted by a species they considered weak. But the alien empire remembered the fight and the unexpected courage of the humans. The word spread through their galaxy, Earth was not a world that could be taken easily. It became a whispered legend, a warning to other civilizations who might underestimate a united planet. Humanity had changed the perception of its place in the cosmos. On Earth, people looked to the stars with new eyes. Astronomers, pilots, and explorers studied the skies not with fear, but with curiosity and respect. They sent unmanned probes, satellites, and research vessels into deep space, learning about neighboring systems and distant stars. Humanity had discovered that survival depended not only on defending what they had, but also on understanding what might come. Each discovery brought pride, each success built confidence, and each challenge reminded everyone that the universe was vast, mysterious, and full of unknowns. As the years passed, humanity flourished. Technologies once unimaginable became commonplace. Cities were rebuilt stronger than before. Transportation, medicine, and communication improved in ways that no one could have predicted. People lived longer, healthier lives, and nations shared resources more freely. And while the threat of another alien invasion remained in the background of human consciousness, it no longer dominated lives. Humanity had learned resilience, unity, and innovation, the lessons that had saved the planet. Legends of the lost pilots and scientists continued to inspire. Monuments were built in their honor and their stories were told in every language. Children dreamed of flying among the stars, building, discovering, and protecting. Adults taught the lessons of courage and collaboration, ensuring that the memory of the invasion was preserved not as a tale of fear, but as a story of hope and human potential. In time, humanity began to expand beyond Earth. The first colonies were established on the Moon and Mars, carefully planned and designed to be self-sustaining. Scientists and engineers used the knowledge gained from the alien technology to create habitats that could survive harsh conditions. Explorers traveled further, mapping nearby star systems and sending data back to Earth. Humanity had become more than just a species confined to one planet. It was a civilization ready to face the universe, prepared for whatever challenges might come, and yet, the humans who had survived the invasion never forgot the lessons learned. Every new generation grew up knowing the value of unity, preparation, and courage. The story of the invasion became more than history. It became the foundation of a culture that celebrated resilience, intelligence, and compassion. People understood that strength was not just in weapons or technology, but in the willingness to work together, to help others, and to rise even when the odds seemed impossible. Across the galaxy, Earth's story spread. Other civilizations, once indifferent or hostile, now watched with respect. Earth was no longer just a small, fragile planet. It was a world that had faced one of the most powerful empires in existence and survived. It had taken the impossible and turned it into a new reality. The legend of Earth became a symbol, proof that determination, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the greatest threats. On the planet itself, life continued. Children laughed in rebuilt parks, markets thrived with new energy, and communities worked together in ways never seen before. People traveled into space, explored new worlds, and shared their knowledge freely. Earth had changed, but it had not lost its humanity. The values that had kept the planet alive, hope, courage, cooperation, were stronger than ever. The final lesson of the invasion became clear. Even when faced with overwhelming odds, a species united by hope and determination could not be defeated. Humanity had survived when almost everyone expected it to fail. The alien empire had thought Earth would fall easily, but they had misjudged what made this planet special. Humans were resilient, creative, and brave. They could adapt, learn, and rise together. And so, even as centuries passed, the story of the invasion remained alive in hearts and minds. The stars above were no longer frightening. They were a reminder of what humans had accomplished. Humanity had grown from fear into courage, from chaos into unity, and from survival into a thriving civilization that looked outward, ready for anything. The memory of the 17 alien ships that returned, with their crews lost, became a symbol of victory. It reminded humans that even the most powerful forces could fail when they underestimated those they sought to conquer. Earth had endured, learned, and grown stronger. And in that growth, it had secured a future not just for itself, but for generations yet to come. In the end, Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a story of courage, unity, and the strength of the human spirit. A story that the stars would remember and that humans would carry forward forever. Humanity had faced the impossible. Humanity had survived, and humanity would never forget the lesson of the stars, that together there was no force in the universe that could bring them down.